Hi, Shannon Rowe Jackson here from Caution Our Set Play, and today I am going to be painting my Bob Ross Chia Pet. He is a little bit grimy, as you can probably tell, because we did try and grow him before, not very successfully, so I decided instead I would much rather just have a fun little statue of Bob Ross in my studio. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some acrylic paint. I am going to pretty him up a bit. I tried to clean him, and this is as best as I could get, so don't come at me, because this is all I could do. I know it's probably not going to be the most archival, but you know what? It's going to be fun, hopefully. I think. Hopefully it'll come out good. Well, we'll find out. Alright, on to the show. Alright, here we go, folks. There's no going back. So, my gesso is like really dried up and goopy, so I didn't use gesso on this. I probably should have, but I didn't because it's not in good shape and I need to buy some more and I haven't. So I went right in with acrylic paints. Basically, I am just using some apple barrel paints and some Createx airbrush paints. I'm using the Createx airbrush paints because I actually use them as craft paints now because they're too thick for my airbrush and I really don't like them. So I just kind of decided to put them in the class of apple barrel paints, which is good because my apple barrel paints are like 20-something years old and they're not doing very well, and you will see that when I'm trying to seriously do the skin tone. Right now, I'm basically just doing a base coat. I'm not going to go too heavy with the blue over the signature for Bob Ross because I'm going to come over that later with a marker. I'm just going over and putting in some base coats of my colors. I put in a very, very light beige to kind of cover up that orange color for the skin tone. And I will be coming in later on and darkening that skin color and making it look like actual skin instead of porcelain, which is kind of fitting since this is kind of a little statuette. And then I'm just coming through and I am going to do the base coat of the hair. It's actually a very, very, very dark brown, but it ends up coming out looking black, which is fine because it ends up being a nice shadow color later on. Let me tell you, this was a doozy. Like, I didn't realize how different, I didn't remember, I guess, how different painting something three-dimensional is from painting something two-dimensional. It probably would have been easier just to do like a colored pencil portrait of Bob Ross or something. This was crazy. First of all, I did look at pictures of Bob Ross online because I needed some loose reference. Like, everybody knows what Bob Ross looks like, but I wanted to see the subtle nuances. And let me tell you, these Chia Pet people did not get him right. They made him a lot chubbier than he actually was, and his nose is wider, like, like you can tell it's Bob Ross and everything, but I really had to compete with some of these things. Like, it's really difficult to create a likeness in paint on a three-dimensional thing that isn't done to perfect proportion. And it's understandable, like, everybody can tell who he is just looking at the Chia Pet and everything. Like, it's really not horrible. I didn't notice it too bad until I was looking at photos of him and trying to paint him. So here I am starting to add some skin tone, and as I said, I am using some apple barrel paints, but they're not doing very well. And I do this, I don't know, I try to even out his skin no less than like 7 times, I think. Some of them may not even be on camera. This was probably the worst part of the whole thing, because I also was trying to contour. I am not a makeup artist, but I have seen makeup artists contour their noses and things like that and thin them out and everything, and I thought, hey, you know, this Bob Ross statue could really use that because the Chia people really gave him a wider face and a wider nose than he actually had. So you will see me go back and forth putting in like shadow colors and darker colors around the nose and the eyes and the cheeks, and then wiping them out and going through again. Like, there's a lot of layers on his face. But it comes together, I swear. I end up bringing in some products that actually really help later on because the apple barrel were working against me at this point because, as I said, they're old. I need to get some new ones. Apple barrel would have been perfect for this project if I had some actual new ones. So, anyway, this actually is reminiscent of some projects that me and my sister used to do. And my sister, when we were younger, my sister is also very, very creative, and she has a crochet business, and she has another business called She's So Creative, because she is, and where she does a ton of crafts. And so we were always creative kids, which I kind of pity my mom for, because creativity often looks like destruction when you're a child, because we ruined a lot of items in the house. And my sister came up with a really cool idea to paint a Mrs. Buttersworth bottle. And so she did that when we were like really young. I don't know how old I was at the time. She's 5 years older than me. But anyway, she did that when we were younger. And then later on, we got into doing crafts together, and she decided she wanted to repaint her Mrs. Buttersworth bottle. And I just, you know, like told me, hey, let's do this together. You can do one too. And let me tell you, this was a lot easier to paint than that, because that was actual shiny glass, and we were using apple barrel paints at the time. But coming back to this, I'm like, wow, like, no wonder why I don't do 3D things very often, other than like sometimes I'll sculpt with my own Sculpey clay and paint that for jewelry and things, like small items. But painting something three-dimensional is so difficult, and you can tell why, because like you'll try and get your brush into these little, like you'll see me try and get my brush into these little areas, and I'll touch something else that I already painted, and then I'll have to go back and repaint it, because now I got a color in a spot where it's not supposed to be, because things are like three-dimensional, and things are poking out, and there's walls, and there's like angles, and things that just got in the way. I sound like I'm really, really complaining, but I actually very much enjoyed this process, because it was so different than anything that I've done before. And honestly, this is probably the most YouTubiest YouTube video I've ever done, because Bob Ross is so huge right now, especially in the artist community on here. And I haven't seen anybody that I know do this. I think there are a few videos with a different spin. I think there's one where somebody paints him but doesn't paint him to look like himself, or some, you know, something like that. But I haven't seen any of the artists I follow do it. So I thought that this would be fun and different, and you know, it still falls in line with customizing things, and it still goes along with the Bob Ross trend, because what artist doesn't love Bob Ross? Like, he is definitely a hero in the artist world. And he's just fun, and he's awesome to watch. I still watch him all the time. I used to watch him growing up with my sister, and we've always, like, he's just awesome. And I'm glad that he's getting all the attention he's getting. And I was very excited when my husband bought me this Chia Pet. He actually bought it for me a couple years ago, and we literally just broke it out of the box. I have no sunlight in my studio, so I couldn't grow it in my studio. We brought it down and put it in the window, and we did the chia thing. My husband helped, and well, you saw how it turned out. And honestly, I just wanted to paint it. As soon as he bought it for me, I thought, oh my, that would be really cool to paint. But I figured we should try to grow first. And when it didn't work out, I'm like, okay, that's my sign. It's time to paint him. He wants to be a statue in my studio, and that is what he shall be. So here I am. Okay, so here I'm bringing in a different product. I have the Jane Davenport pastels. They're almost like pan pastels. They look like eyeshadows. And I also use the Jane Davenport acrylic paint. It's the skin tone set. I think that's what it's called, to even out his skin tones as well. And these just really, really help, because of course these are a lot newer products. And so it really evened out the skin tone. The pastels worked beautifully. Here I am tracing over his signature. Like I said earlier, I left it thin enough so I could see it. But the Jane Davenport products saved the day for me. And the pastels stuck to the terracotta perfectly. And I will be spraying him later on so it all sticks. So I ended up using acrylics, pastels, colored pencil. As you can see, I brought in a lot of my colored pencils to create some detail. And because it was such a matte surface, it really worked really well on, you know, on the terracotta, and I loved it. Even on the shinier surfaces that had a lot of acrylic, I was able to add some dimension with colored pencil and pastel. Okay, so here he is. The lighting makes him look a lot darker than he actually is. Like, I can't get a good picture to save my life, or a good video. He looks a lot darker in the mall. He looks a lot better in person, and I am so excited. I love him. I'm glad I went through all the pain. Here is some stills. I took him outside because Bob Ross loves being outside, and there we go. He may not look exactly like him, but I'm pretty proud of him. I love him. I'm happy to have him in my studio, and I'm glad I did this. It was actually a lot of fun, even though I complained a lot. My husband wants me to do more like him. Let me know if you'd like me to do more Chia Pet paintings. It might be a possibility. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye. Gosh, I varnished him. Look how freaking shiny he is. He still looks way darker than he actually does in person. But he's shiny. He's a shining star. Well, it's Bob Ross. He was already a shining star. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing more of my artwork, I'm on social media, so check out the links in the description below.